It's Game Boys, isn't it?
Yeah.
Game Boys. So, fast-paced, ever-changing world of technology, simplicity and nostalgia of retro video games, apparently having a resurgence.
People are enjoying them, and it's the Nintendo Game Boy, appealing to many. It was first released in 1989 and is still one of the best-selling consoles in history. So we're going to chat to retro games collector Frazer Rhodes just before 9 o'clock. Now, if you want to share your gaming stories, I always wondered if you'd get really, crampy thumbs from playing too much. You've got to, haven't you?
I don't know. If I'm honest, it all rather passed me by.
Yeah, it
although
wasn't for me.
You know, I'm of exactly the right era, but it slightly passed me by. What are these ones here? What is that? Is that the one that you used to play in the pubs on the
Pac-Man.
The tennis one, is it?
That's Pac-Man.
And that one there is what?
That's just
that's
the
Nintendo.
So Charlie's not the person to talk to about gaming, but luckily we have an expert.
Yeah. You've probably got people at home will have them tucked away somewhere if they're not being used.
Yeah. Send us pictures if you've got them. Send us your memories, playing your first console, your favourite retro game, what was best, because that's always a good debate as well. Lots of ways to get in touch with us. Obviously, you saw them at the bottom of the screen.
Technology, the world of gaming changing lots, of course, over recent years. Use of artificial intelligence is making things much more complicated and better. Yeah,
the graphics are amazing these days, aren't they? But some people hanker back for the traditional retro games, and they're seeing a resurgence. Nintendo's Game Boy was first released in 1989, and it was a grey box with a small screen, tinny speakers. Still, it became one of the best-selling consoles of all time. Take a look.
They said it wasn't humanly possible, but now you can have all the power and excitement of Nintendo right in the palm of your hand. Introducing Game Boy. It's portable, it's in stereo, and its games are interchangeable. Plus, Game Boy comes with the outrageous new game, Tetris. And for head-to-head competition, use the revolutionary video link and blow your opponent away. Game Boy, only from Nintendo. Now you're playing with power, portable power.
Now, if you want to talk retro, this is the person to talk to. This is retro games collector Frazer Rhodes. Hello.
Hi.
What have you brought?
These are a selection of things from my retro game museum.
What are we not allowed to touch?
You can touch everything, but what I would say is we've got everything from games at £20 up to games at £20,000.
What one?
So this is a game called Metal Slug.
Yeah, you touch it. Turn it round that way to that camera.
Here we go.
There we go.
So
Metal
nobody
Slug.
expected this game to be worth that much money, but released in small numbers in 1995.
A game that would have been played on what?
A system called the Neo Geo, a console from 1990.
OK, now go backwards down the line. The cheapest and probably the most common item that people would have had going way back, the Game Boys here, yes?
Yes, that's right.
Tell us about those.
So it was a stroke of genius, really, from Nintendo to create the Game Boy, because it took the technology it was already using with the Game & Watch series and then implemented it in a system that was portable, it was cheap, but importantly, the games were fantastic.
Best games?
Undoubtedly, Tetris. It was a stroke of genius to include it. Well, certainly in the European launch, the game sold over 35 million, and the Game Boy system and its iterations of that sold 118 million units. Phenomenal.
You know, we were talking about how, although technology has come on so much, is it true, or is it a myth, that there is a kind of growing fascination, if not usage, of some of the older devices, which on the face of it, I mean, we're looking at some of the imagery there, it doesn't compare with what you can see now.
No, I mean, you've got unlimited kind of development potential, you've got photorealistic graphics nowadays, but people are still interested in the older stuff and even play older games on the newer technology.
I liked Worm.
Yeah, exactly.
Worm was brilliant, just
simple,
so simple.
Exactly, easy to pick up. You don't need to wait for a system to download its latest firmware. You can just pick it up and play it.
This box here in itself is rather lovely, isn't it? Can you give us which camera you want?
Yeah,
hold that
you
up.
open it as you're opening it. Here,
Yeah.
camera 5 here.
So talk us through this. What is that?
So this was released in 1979
Just hold
by
that up.
Nintendo.
Keep it still for a moment. There we go.
This was Nintendo's first console that featured its own logo. So prior to this, it was working with Mitsubishi. And this is a game called Block Breaker that was sold exclusively in Japan.
The knobs on it are just like so They're just so retro.
It
aren't
screams 70s, doesn't it?
What
Yeah.
was that? What would that? Would people want this now? What would that
yeah.
be going for?
Yeah.
You
So
can pop it down
typically,
if you wish.
£200 to £300, maybe a bit more in this condition. There's just a real interest in collecting this stuff.
The thing is, when these fabulously simple things come out, people like to fiddle, don't they? And they
do.
like to improve. Hence this.
Yes.
What is it?
So this is Nintendo's Virtual Boy. Now, this was meant to be the successor to the Game Boy.
Up on the desk.
Well, this is a classic example of where it's not quite the right technology at the wrong time. So it was supposed to be a headset that just sat on your head, truly portable, but in reality, the technology meant they had to compromise. And that meant they had to fit batteries to it, they needed to put it on a stand,
So
which
the
meant
idea
it was
was
really
you'd sort
awkward.
of kneel down and
yeah,
look
you
in
had to
and-
sort of put your face into it, which...
There's no joy in that. Is
Exactly. So it only sold 770,000 units, never came to the UK or Europe, was only released in Japan and the US, and it was killed off after about 12 months.
We've had loads of messages. We asked our audience, our viewers, to get in touch. So, this is Richard, who shared his photo of two of his friends playing an Atari. Do you know, I struggled to see what it was, and I thought it was like an arty photo, but it's just the quality of the cameras in those days, wasn't
I thought it was a giant cat.
Yeah, I did
some
think he
reason.
was playing with his dog or something. That's in 1985. And then, maybe this one's better. This is Paul from the Seychelles. Oh, you'd like this, Frazer. This is a collection of more than 200 games for the NES system. Now, what was that? He says he's got a Game Boy, so NES was...
Nintendo Entertainment System.
Right.
So it was the 8-bit system from Nintendo. It was called the Family Computer or the Famicom in Japan. Really
So
popular.
Justin in Hereford, his Game Boy is now part of the wall art, in his home.
Wow.
Samantha said she's 37, still plays on a Game Boy. She received it as a birthday gift from when she was a child. Says she once played it for so many hours in one day. Okay, she was physically sick.
yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that was going that way. You hear a lot of stories of discoveries made because anecdotally, people are saying, "Oh, I was looking through my parents' loft, maybe my grandparents' loft now, and I found this. It was in the garage, or."
Yep. Happens all the time. And discoveries within games, but equally garage finds, you know what I mean, or loft finds. There was one recently, that exact game was found in, I think, in Preston, came up for sale, sold overnight, £16,000.
Well, Daniel...
£16,000.
It's a lot of money. Daniel got in touch, Daniel Miles. He said he found his old Game Boy in the attic, in his mum's attic last year. And after a dust-off, trip to the game store, worked like new. So this is the old technology, isn't it? It's kind of like the old stuff's the best stuff in many ways.
Absolutely. And you can just pick it up. Anybody aged 10 to 100 can pick up that Game Boy with Tetris and they'll be playing it straight away.
Really nice chatting with you
Really
today.
good.
Thanks for bringing this stuff in.
this.
Very welcome.
I'm staggered by the values.